Hey guys and gals, hope everyone's doing well. So you may have already seen my video on upgrading the pads and rotors on this vehicle. Well, the next one is going to be stainless steel brake lines, and I'm going to be installing these Spiegler stainless steel brake lines on this vehicle, and should be a fun one. And as always, if you like what you're about to see, don't forget to hit like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments, and let's get to it. All right, removing and replacing these rear brake lines is about as easy as it seems. All you have to do is unscrew a nut that is holding this cable, this brake line here underneath, and unscrew the nut underneath this one, pull out the brake line and pop in the new one, and then thread the old connection here onto the new brake line on both ends. So the first step in removing this brake line here is you got to move this cluster of wires out of the way that's secured by this clip here. Now you have much clearer access to this here. So we're going to loosen or remove this nut on the bottom, which is threaded into this brake line. And that is going to be with an 11mm wrench. And then the same thing over here with a 10mm wrench. We're going to start on this side, and then once we remove that bottom piece, we're going to plug the brake line with the little rubber stopper. And this is the little rubber stopper I'm talking about right here. Also, you're going to want to put a little something here to catch any brake fluid, and maybe some towels, paper towels or rags. You are going to have some stuff spill here, and to be honest with you, it's going to be impossible to catch it all. Just try to get that little rubber stopper on quickly. All right, we're going to start by loosening this nut here. You see that little rubber stopper there at the end of there? That's what you're trying to get on, and it's not easy to get on once the brake fluid starts leaking out, but I had to take my gloves off to be able to show you that. And the next step now is going to be to remove this nut here using a 10mm. All right, so after loosening this a little here by hand with the wrench, you could just do the rest by hand. I put my glove on because I want to be able to turn this without a bunch of brake fluid spilling on me. But you're going to see that once you turn this thing out, this thing lifts right up, and there's our old brake line. And here is the new brake line, and the process is reversed. You just stick this little groove here into the groove on the brake, right there on the bracket. You'll find it fairly easily there, right there. You see this little. You could just start to do this by hand. All right, and that's about as tight as it gets. The next step is to repeat, but doing this on that side, and we will, obviously there'll be some brake fluid spilling out, and so I'm gonna have to get my gloves on to do that. All right, so first we're going to want to position the top side slide it so that the groove of the cable slips into place there. Then is the messy part. Then we want to remove that little black stopper, which is going to come off a lot easier than it came on. There it is. And then we want to, this thing is already starting to drip out, we want to go ahead and begin to thread that thing. All right, so you can see this is where I tightened there. It's really good firm hand tightening. And then also down here below, 11mm here, 10mm here. And then next I'm going to wipe this thing down and then put this back into that little round clip right there. Also doesn't hurt to have a little simple green on hand to spray this area off to get all the brake fluid off, and then wipe it clean before putting all this back together. And there she is, all nicely put back together. That's the way you do the rear brake line. And not too messy. All right, so here we are on the driver's side front brakes, and here are the brake lines that we're going to be replacing. We're going to be replacing this one right here, followed by the hard line that is connected right below it. So that hard line, let me show you where that hard line goes. That hard line goes into the caliper right here. And by replacing that with one of those braided stainless steel lines, number one, well, the main benefit of replacing that one is when you are doing brake pad changes, you won't run the risk of accidentally damaging this hard wire, which can be bent or broken. All right, so we are going to start by loosening this. Now it's going to start dripping out, and very likely I'm going to end up having to move this camera because it's already dripping, and this is really not easy to do with the camera sitting right in front of me. So I am essentially making a mess here, mostly for your benefit, because if I didn't have the camera sitting here right in front of me, I'd probably be able to do this a little bit faster. I'm going to just keep turning this and hoping that I can have this part removed quick, so that way I could put that little rubber nipple piece on, which that will stop all this leaking. And remember, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter how much leaking there is, because you're still going to have to flush the entire thing out anyways. So hopefully, here we go. That's the part we want to cap. Here's the rubber thing, and boom, the rubber cap is on, and that's going to stop the majority of the brake fluid that we're going to lose in the process. We still have to remove this brake line, remove it over here. There's going to be a little brake fluid spillage there, and then there'll be a little bit at the caliper end, but not very much. You may also find that removing this piece here will make it a little bit easier to access that nut, and so you could just kind of wiggle it out of the way. It doesn't help a lot, but it helps a little bit in just giving you clearer access to that. All right, back to removing this one, because that's going to, oh, there we go, look, just like that. And by the way, that's ready to come out too. So here's the old brake line. Say goodbye, brake line. Old nappy brake line. Once again, this little clip here, whether you take it off right here, right now, like I just did, or you take it off after we remove that entire hard brake line, just know that you're going to need to save this. So I'm going to put it down somewhere where I won't lose it. So now we begin disconnecting the brake line here with this 10 millimeter. It's very easy. There we go. Just one little turn. I mean, I'm raw dogging this one. No glove. Oh, look at that. Oh, goodness. It's catching all kinds of fluid there. That's all right. I am going to toss this into the little basin there. Look at that. All right. Bam. There's definitely going to be some fluid spillage. That's no big deal. So if you're doing the two-piece stainless braided brake lines for the front, where you have the one coming from here to here and then the other one replacing the hard line from this bracket all the way to the caliper, you're going to want to do the connection that goes here first before you do the caliper and then this one here. this will be the last one that you do. And just to show you, you're going to, this one that replaces the hard line has a right angle connection and then like a 45-degree angle connection. Basically, this is what's going to happen. You are going to thread these two together like so, except of one thing that's different, and that is that it's got to be in there, and we have to use that little spring clip. This is not really hard to do. It's just a little tedious with your fingers. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to put that in there like that. Then we are going to get the spring clip and put that on here like that. And then last, we are going to thread this onto here. Now I'm going to move the camera so I can get a different angle that I can work with. All right, here we go. So let's go ahead and get this brake line threaded into here. Now, I don't know if you could see very well what I'm doing, but I'm coming up underneath with this clip. Let me see if I lower this. Hang on. Whoa! Now we're talking. So I'm going to come up underneath. I have that clip there, and I've got to thread this on. Now this is just tedious, but once we get it on, once we get those first couple threads going, this is easy. So let's get those first couple threads on there. Okay, so we are not going to tighten this all the way. We're going to tighten it to almost all the way, because what we need to do is we need to connect the other end of this lower cable to the brake caliper. Once we've got it connected to the brake caliper, we can figure out precisely the position that this cable should lay before tightening down these connections, both on this end and at the caliper end. And then the last step will be to connect the final end to the part that we have capped off there. So here we have it. We're going to go ahead and thread this in by hand. Very important that this is done, this first part here, by hand, because we do not want any cross threading going on at the caliper, and that's going in nice and smooth. And this is also a 10 millimeter. Okay, perfect. So after wiggling these lines around a little bit, both at this end and at the other end, I've come to the conclusion that leaving this one pointed almost straight back is going to be the way that will give us the greatest amount of flexibility when we are changing brake pads. And so, of course, it helps if you're using the correct wrench. And in this case, it's 11, not 10. If I said 10, I meant 11. So just a good little tighten there. I mean, that I had already hand tightened it. I threaded it. It was a long thread, so I know there was no cross threading. Now I gave it a good little hand tighten there. See how it's pointing straight back? And then now, and so now I have found the optimal angle for this to hang before I begin also to tighten this one down with the 11 millimeter connection. Now keep in mind, this has got to be sitting in those grooves in order for this thing not to be spinning around when you start to turn it. But this is actually really already good and tight. Good and tight. All right, we got it. All right, so the last step in connecting the brake lines together is we are going to pull the little rubber stopper off the tip there. We're going to push this cable down in through that slotted hole, and then we're going to try to thread, not try, we are going to thread the bottom part into the top part. I'm going to pop off the little nipple, ouch, pop that thing off. Of course, it's dripping. think we're almost there. Which is the part that I can't wait for. Almost. Almost. Okay. Good and tight. I think that's good. We're about to find out, but I think that's good. All right, so you want to go back and make sure you've tightened this nut nice and tight, the one down here nice and tight, and then of course the one at the brake caliper nice and tight. And then once you've got all that good and tight, then you can go ahead and put this back together. That just pops in there nicely. And then I would say go in there, spray some of this simple green stuff, get it all around there, you know, anywhere where you may have had some brake fluid spill, douse it with simple green, wipe it clean. But I'm just going to go ahead and double and triple check all the connections, because after this is brake flush time. Well, that's it. I've got all of the stainless brake lines installed front and back, and now the next step is to do a brake flush and get all of the air out of the lines that I just introduced by doing a 4-corner stainless brake line replacement / upgrade. Well, there are all of the old brake lines, and unfortunately I don't have an after video now to show you, because I've already put the wheels back on and brought the car back down to the ground and taken it out for a test drive, and everything is working great. And I got to tell you, I'm really happy with this mod. I don't expect to experience a significant level of improvement in performance in terms of brake performance and day-to-day driving. You know, my goal for this was to try to optimize the brake performance for the track, and I think that that's where I will realize the greatest benefit in upgrading to the stainless steel brake lines. But overall, I'm just real happy with this DIY. I'm glad I was able to do it. It turned out to be a pretty straightforward installation. I mean, it only needed 2 tools. You only needed a 10mm wrench and an 11mm wrench, and that was really it. Of course, you know, not counting the taking off of the tires and putting the car up and that sort of thing. But yeah, you only need a couple of wrenches to get this job done, and it's really easy. Now, it's definitely messy. It's a messy job, and so if you have you know fancy garage floors, whatever, you just need to make sure that you take the necessary precautions to deal with the mess, which means, you know, cover your floors or have you know, this sort of thing there to catch any sort of brake fluid that's going to drip, because you're going to get brake fluid everywhere. But yeah, anyways, great, easy DIY. Highly recommend that if you're going to be doing frequent brake pad changes, that you go with the 2-line kit for each of the front wheels and plus the 1 line for the back. So you want the 6-line kit if you're going to be doing frequent pad changes in the front. I mean, if you're going to be doing frequent pad changes in general. The front is because you have that extra hard wire that you're replacing that you want to make sure you don't damage when you're doing those frequent pad changes. But anyways, that's pretty much it. Just wanted to close this video up and say, you know, definitely something I recommend you doing if you're going to take your car to the track. And if you like this video, please don't forget to hit like, comment, subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you soon.